Welcome back to The Rogue Millennial. I'm Kate Hildreth, and today we have a lot of interesting topics to cover. First of all, I want to go over some news stories from the last couple of weeks, and then I want to delve into gun control and the concept of gun bans. So that's going to be a really interesting topic. We're going to talk about the history of banning guns and what the consequences of that looks like, or has looked like in the past. So let's jump right into it. So the first story that I want to talk about today is Aaron Bushnell. Now, this happened a few weeks ago now, actually. Basically, this guy, a U.S. airman, set himself on fire in front of the Israeli embassy in Washington, D.C. And that happened on February 25th. So it was a couple weeks ago. But the thing that I find really disturbing about this is that not only did he set himself on fire, that in itself is disturbing, but it was a form of political protest. He posted on Facebook right before he killed himself. And then after he died, people are essentially making a martyr out of him, saying he's so brave, he's right, and we should take his protest very seriously. I think this guy is a crazy person. I don't think that anyone who sets themselves on fire should be, made into this hero martyr figure. And also, you're kind of basically glamorizing suicide, which is gross. So this is an article from Time. It's called "The History of Self-Immolation as Political Protest." So it talks a little bit about this guy, Aaron Bushnell, and how he self-immolated as a political protest because he disagreed with the quote-unquote genocide going on in Palestine. And aside from all of this being disturbing and the fact that he set himself on fire as a protest, and people think he's awesome for it, if I'm scrolling down further in this article, Time thinks it's so smart. It's trying to give us a little history lesson on self-immolation, setting yourself on fire. And I'm not familiar enough with Hindu to comment on this first claim that Time is explaining from the history. However, then it starts talking about Christianity. Self-immolation, it says, was also committed by a group of Christians around 300 AD. Acting before authorities could carry out a sentence from the Roman Emperor Diocletian that they should be burned alive. So pretty much any general Christian could tell you that Christians did not self-immolate, okay? They were arrested and burned at the stake. These people were murdered. They were martyrs, okay? That's very different from setting yourself on fire because you disagree with a war that is going on halfway across the world. That's a ridiculous comparison, and I think Time needs to take that down. It's just inaccurate because this is basically saying that Christians killed themselves in 300 AD instead of being martyred, which was what actually happened. So that was the first news story, this glorifying of suicide, this inaccurate representation of Christian martyrdom as suicide, which is historically inaccurate and untrue. The second story is, I'm sure we're all aware that the Black national anthem is being played at events now, notably the Super Bowl. So I watched the Super Bowl. I'm not really into football, but I did watch the Super Bowl this year. And it's honestly just becoming kind of underwhelming. I used to watch it just for the commercials because they tended to be funny, but every year they seem to be getting worse and worse. They're more and more woke and more just kind of ridiculous, honestly. But I digress. So the Black National Anthem, what is it? It's a song called "Lift Every Voice and Sing." And it turns out that they started implementing the playing of the Black National Anthem after the death of George Floyd. I think just the idea of a national anthem kind of suggests that it's supposed to unify a nation. And so for a group to have its own national anthem outside of the nation, in addition to the nation, separate from our national anthem as a nation, kind of defeats the purpose of having a national anthem, right? You're supposed to be promoting unity, not everyone gets their own national anthem. So you don't get your own national anthem. That's ridiculous and defeats the whole purpose of a national anthem, which is to unify a country. I honestly wouldn't be surprised at this point if next year or sometime soon, LGBTQ community has its own national anthem, and now this other minority group has a national anthem. So food for thought on this, but those are my thoughts. I think the Black national anthem is a ridiculous idea. I think any national anthem separate from our national anthem defeats the purpose of a national anthem. And I think it's stupid, and we should just stick to our one and start focusing on the ways we can unite together instead of trying to separate ourselves all the time from each other because of our backgrounds or because of our races or any of that. So that being said, there is another story that I want to bring to your attention. This is actually a new series that DailyClout is doing. It's V-Safe Voices. So V-Safe is it was created to monitor vaccine safety, and it allowed participants to report their experiences, essentially. And so it's really about giving a voice to people who receive the vaccines, who are having different reactions, really bad reactions to the vaccines, the COVID-19 injections, I should say. And this one is tachycardia post-vaccination. So this one kind of explains what that is, what the symptoms are, and it has a link for the data as well. And yeah, it's just a really good way to let those people tell their stories and for people to know that these things are out there, that vaccine injury is real, that it's not some made up thing. These are real people with real stories and real injuries. And so that's really important. So if you haven't seen that, I highly recommend you go check it out. So with that, let's move on to gun bans and gun restrictions, especially in the United States right now.
Before we continue, I want to thank our valued sponsors for their support. First, I want to thank our partners at The Wellness Company. This team of renowned medical professionals, including Dr. Peter McCullough, Dr. James Thorpe, Dr. Harvey Risch, Dr. Drew Pinsky, and other truth-seeking doctors. They have crafted The Wellness Company's emergency kit, which looks like this. It's full of life-saving medications, antibiotics, ivermectin, you name it. It also comes with this guidebook, so you can kind of go through and see what each medication is for, what it's used to treat, side effects, all of that good stuff right in here. So this is the ultimate solution for preparedness. Don't wait for the next crisis to catch you off guard. Visit dailyclouthealth.com and use promo code KATE for an exclusive 10% discount. I also want to thank our partner at Charlize Skincare. According to the FDA, companies in the United States are allowed to market skincare products as non-toxic while still containing up to 49% toxic ingredients, which is wild. Those ingredients can actually make you age faster, disrupt your hormones, and may even cause serious illnesses. Charlize is an organic, toxic-free skincare line with zero toxic ingredients that is anti-aging and made with all natural ingredients. So stop supporting companies that are marketing you toxins disguised as skincare. Instead, reverse aging with toxic-free skincare from Charlize, made right here in the USA. Go to charlize.beauty and use promo code KATE for 25% off your order today. This is from Heaven's Harvest. So this is an heirloom vegetable seed kit. This is also really awesome because it comes with this breakdown, all the things you need to know if you're like me and you are helpless when it comes to growing anything. So the great thing about Heaven's Harvest is they have a variety of products, not just seeds. They have freeze-dried food kits, which have a 25-year shelf life. It's freeze-dried, not dehydrated, because freeze-drying removes 99% of water. Each food variety is sealed by UV and radiation-resistant mylar foil pouches containing 6 servings each. So that's NASA-developed packaging. All the food is non-GMO and made right here in the USA. All the packs are resealable for later consumption, and they have gluten-free options. So this is one of the things that I love about Heaven's Harvest, is that they have all of these different food options, seed kits, freeze-dried kits, all good things to prepare you for whatever might be coming this year and the following year. We all want to be as prepared as possible, and that means having a stock of food. So if you're ready to take charge and be prepared for whatever this year might bring, go to heavensharvest.com/Kate and use promo code Kate for 10% off. Please support DailyClout by supporting our sponsors.
So throughout history, there's been instances where governments or occupying powers have disarmed populations. Those situations often have been followed by periods of oppression or violence or genocide. So that's what we're going to talk about. First off, one of the earliest examples is the Ottoman Empire, so the Armenian genocide. So this was a mass violence that occurred in the Ottoman Empire, the then Ottoman Empire, I should say. So before the Armenian genocide in 1915, surprise, surprise, the Ottoman Empire or the Ottoman government implemented policies that disarmed the population, the Armenians. So the disarmament of the Armenian population left them extremely vulnerable to the genocide that occurred in 1915. Estimates of the dead ranged from 600,000 to more than 1.5 million Armenians. Okay, so that's example number one. Secondly, Soviet Union, the Holodomor and political repressions. I hope I'm saying that right. I'm not sure. Anyway, in the Soviet Union, there was a series of disarmament policies, once again, implemented after the Bolshevik Revolution. So the Bolshevik, revolution was the Romanovs and these groups that came in and, murdered the Tsar and the family and all of that, that era. So after that, the end of the Tsars, we have these policies where they're taking away people's guns. Okay, so I looked it up. It's actually Holodomor is how you're supposed to say it, apparently. So anyway, the disarmament of the Ukrainian peasants came before the Holodomor, which was a man-made famine in Soviet Ukraine in the 1930s, which caused millions of deaths. So obviously, the disarmament itself didn't directly cause the famine, but people couldn't resist what the government was doing because they had no means to. Okay, you take away people's guns, you take away their ability to resist in any real way, which in turn, of course, led to the deadly food shortages. So perhaps the most popular, recent, I should say, example of this is Nazi Germany. Before and during World War II, the Nazi regime implemented laws and policies to disarm Jews and political dissidents and any other group that they wanted to target, which made those groups practically defenseless against any type of persecution, deportation, and of course, the Holocaust. So in 1938, German Weapons Act prohibited Jews from owning weapons, which left them, of course, defenseless in the face of escalating Nazi violence. We all know how that ended, not well. Rwanda, another example, genocide against the Tutsi people. So the lead up to that 1994 genocide in Rwanda, leading up to that, there were efforts by the Hutu-led government to disarm the individuals. So of course, because the people were disarmed ahead of time, they had no means of defense, And that genocide resulted in the deaths of approximately 800,000 people. So I think that any form of disarmament infringes upon, first of all, our Second Amendment rights in the United States. We have the Constitution, which that right was established to protect citizens from these historical examples of things that have gone very badly when people disarm people, to protect them from tyrannical government actions, oppressive law, and physical attack. I think the framers of the Constitution were perfectly aware of historical precedents of governments disarming their populations to exert control or commit atrocities. And they wanted to safeguard the population by making sure that people had the right to bear arms so they could protect themselves. This is why we have the Second Amendment. So this is such an important layer of protection and defense against the government's or any other threats' ability to impose aggressive or violent measures against the population. The historical examples of the Ottoman Empire, the Soviet Union, Nazi Germany, and Rwanda, they are really important reminders, I think, of the consequences of disarmament. I always hear people talk about Nazi Germany and the Holocaust, and everyone insists we have to learn from history so that it doesn't repeat itself. And when you talk about the Holocaust, usually people say never again, we can't ever let this happen again, and that kind of thing. And yet some of those same people are in favor of gun bans. And I think it's a contradiction, because one of the things that left the Jewish people and the other victims of the Holocaust so vulnerable, aside from just being human beings, is the fact that they had their weapons taken away. They had all of their means of defense taken away before these people moved in and murdered them. This is how it starts, is taking away people's defenses. So in each of these historical examples, the disarmed population was left defenseless in the face of government-led atrocities, violent rebel groups, and oppression that led to mass murder. Now, obviously, our current political and social context has evolved. However, the principle is the same. And the principle is that a disarmed populace is much more vulnerable to government overreach, external threats, and violence. Now, in contemporary America, concerns about government overreach might not necessarily stem from the fear of immediate genocides, similar to the ones that I've just described in the 20th century, yet. But the point here is that the gradual erosion of civil liberties and individual freedoms is where it starts. Disarmament, even gradually, you have some people saying, oh, just this type of gun should be banned, or this type, just military guns should be banned. Even that gradual disarmament is a very, very slippery slope towards increased government control and decreased individual autonomy and individual safety, which, as we've seen, leads to situations where individuals are not able to defend their rights or their liberties or even their physical safety against those types of abuses, governmental or otherwise. So advocates for gun bans tend to argue that certain restrictions are necessary to prevent gun violence and protect citizens, supposedly. I think this definitely stems from the extensive media spotlights whenever something happens, especially highlighting school shootings and shootings occurring in public settings. It's a lot of this, ban guns to save the children type of deal. And every time something like that happens, people on the left storm social media and mainstream news, demanding that guns be banned. because it's the only way to save the children is what they claim. So the thing that I like to bring up when someone makes that claim is that most, if not all, of the perpetrators of these shootings in the United States obtain the firearms illegally, which means that even if owning a gun was illegal, these people would find a way to get their hands on one. And guess what would be the best, fastest, most effective way to stop an active shooter in public? A legally armed and responsible civilian, or 2 or 3 in the crowd. That would be the fastest way to stop someone. Someone pulls out a gun and starts shooting a bunch of people. The fastest way to stop them is if you're there and you are carrying a gun. You know what's not an effective way to deal with shootings? Taking away everyone else's guns so that when there is an active shooter who obtained his gun illegally, no one's there to stop him. Everyone's defenseless. No one has any means of taking this person down. So I think it's really important to consider the lessons of history and identify those areas where we are entering a slippery slope of gradually losing the freedoms, which leads to these historical situations that are catastrophic. I think we also have to consider the current crisis at the US border. As Brian O'Shea and JJ Carroll point out in their show Unrestricted Invasion on DailyClout, migrants are pouring into our country. Thousands come every day, and these aren't your average refugees seeking asylum. These are military-aged men. They aren't coming over the border with their families. They have military haircuts. They're polished. They're soldier-looking individuals who are quite literally coming into our country and being housed in our cities all over. And the left still wants to talk about taking our guns away. Hell to the no. Absolutely not. If there was ever a time that we needed to keep our guns close and keep our homes and our families defended, that time is now. I think more than ever, we need to learn to defend ourselves. And if you're not familiar with guns, if you're scared of guns, if you don't know about how to use a gun, learn, honestly. Like, I think it's a skill that every civilian should know. I think these historical examples and our current situation in the United States, it's just really goes to highlight why it's important that we are very, very aware and vigilant about protecting our freedoms, because those freedoms are going to determine pretty much whether or not we can defend ourselves in a time of crisis or a time of actual physical danger. So that's really important. I think the best place to go if you want to learn more about that situation in the border, which you should learn more about because it's really important, is Unrestricted Invasion on DailyClout. They cover this stuff every week, so I encourage you to head over there for more information on that. Thank you so much for joining me. I really do encourage you to do your own research on these things. I'll leave some links for you down below. Don't forget to subscribe to DailyClout. You can sign up for our free newsletter at the bottom of our homepage. We also have Best of DailyClout Substack, which features all of our newsworthy original content from our commentators. And the best way to support us is by supporting our sponsors. So that's the wellness company at dailyclouthealth.com, Charlize Luxury Skincare at charlize.beauty, and heavensharvest.com/Kate. Don't forget to use promo code Kate on all of those sites to get a discount. Stay safe out there, do your research, and maybe think about taking a gun safety course. It might be helpful. I will see you next time.